Okay, so this is the session for Adriana Bombardone on the 19th of July. Okay, so what's been going on since our last session?
In reality, before I could read your notes, I had already talked a bit to Torsten. So, whereas your first line was, "Don't talk to Torsten about this anymore," then when I started reading the notes, I'm like, no! But softly, I didn't go bananas like my usual. So I only mentioned, because he's been having even more work than normal, and he's been coming home late and not had time. So one day I said to him, Torsten, when the kids finish the summer camp and they spend some time with my parents in the countryside, we really need to sit down and start brainstorming a bit on that 5-year plan, because the 5-year plan we sort of had discussed.
Okay.
And he did not say no. So he did not have any opposition to it. He said, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, whether we will manage, at this stage, if from now and then I manage to do like you said and brainstorm a bit with myself and have that sensory experience and see, because it's very difficult for me as well to know where I want to be or how it feels in 5 years' time. But a bit I know because I don't want this stress. Okay. So I'm kind of waiting next week and the week after to see if we manage to even sit down and no stress, just jot down a few ideas. Because I said to him, you cannot continue having this stress.
No.
Let's say I'm done asking him what. I have to say, lately in the house, he's been more helpful.
Okay.
I've even told him, I've noticed that when he is around, he is more helpful. But poor thing, because I don't want to justify him and I just don't want to just attack him for.
Yes, of course.
I see it that he does his best to be at home. And, when he has been at home, he has been making efforts, the little things, even in the morning, if I'm showering, he's making breakfast, stuff that before, he was even laying in bed until I was done showering, and, that was triggering me. So, I am noticing that, he waits for us in the morning. When I ask him to take the kids to summer camp, he does. I know that at the end of the day, he comes to work very late.
Yeah.
I know that is very difficult for him, even more so now these days that they're having this reorganization at work, and, he has even more work than normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's complicated because, there's no an easy way out, but we need to talk about it because, if his work is going to continue being like this and even more, then either my work needs to diminish or, the other day I even said to him, Torsten, again, I've told you many times, you can even consider, taking time off, having a sabbatical year, doing consultancies, whatever you want. I mean, we need to plan because my salary alone is not enough because we have a big mortgage. But I said, if you want to have a sabbatical year and you do some consultancies, we can do it. We have a little bit savings now that, could take us a year with not your full salary.
Okay.
It depends on the talk that we have. And, I know he wants to have more time at work, at home, but at the same time, he also wants his job, his career. Men are a bit more like that than women in general, even though, I see many women at work who are very career-oriented. I mean, we're all different. But we cannot continue like this because we rarely see each other. And
Okay, I want to stop you here because never think that just because I say something that's different to what you've done, that I'm right.
Yeah.
You have a really good instinct about these things. All I would say is, if you feel drawn to say something, say it, but watch your language. You have language that stresses Torsten and that stresses you. So I've made one suggestion just listening to you.
Go.
You said, Torstein, we really need to. There's that word need. That word need is a stressor for you both.
Yes.
Because he can't take any more of anyone else telling him, I need. He's up to here with it. He's drowning in it.
Yeah.
And it stresses you. So another way to put that, which actually is more, invites Torstein to come in more, is why don't we? Why don't we?
Yeah.
We've got an hour now. Why don't we just start playing with the 5-year plan?
Yeah.
Start playing with. So you're using words that don't stress either of you and are setting you up for play, exploration. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be relaxing. It's going to be something I like doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I would say to you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So why don't we?
Point.
Why don't we? Why don't we? How about if we?
Yeah.
Okay. So really take very seriously this thing that we've talked about before, and the thing that I talk about with all of my clients. Sometimes it feels ad infinitum, and that is cancel verbs of obligation from your vocabulary. No should, no must, no have to, no ought to.
Yes.
Why don't we?
Yes.
As a couple, you have far too much stress.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
So that went well in the sense that we didn't commit to a date, or but we kind of threw the idea in there that when the kids are going to have a few days with my
when
parents.
are they going to stay with their grandparents?
Well, we thought it was going to be the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
But, most likely next week is going to be half, or a few days here, a few days here, there, because my mom also has some things to do in Rome.
Okay.
So we'll be there next week or the week after, before we travel to Norway anyway. I hope that we can, even if it's just talk about it without sitting at the desk, because I know whereas I have the need to sit down and get things done, right? Done. Probably he is so stressed that I've seen it many times, different things that I've asked him, oh, why don't we sit down now and do this, or we should do that, and then he says, no, I'm too tired.
Yeah, but let's come back to your need. You said, I have a need to sit down and get things done. How helpful do you think is that need?
Not helpful, because it stresses me.
Yeah, and also certain things you can't do in one sitting. So you set yourself up to fail, be dissatisfied, and be stressed.
Yeah.
Certain things like a 5-year plan need 1 hour on it at maximum, and then you go back for another hour, and then you go and have a think for a week, and then you come back to it, and an idea comes to you and you jot it down. It's not an all-in-one process.
Yeah.
Okay, so recognize how unhelpful and how unrealistic your need to tick things off your to-do list, which is what we've spoken about before, actually sets you up for more stress, more frustration, and a sense of more failure.
Yes.
Not at all helpful. In fact, it's extremely unhelpful for you.
Yeah, indeed. And perhaps I'm just thinking now as we're talking that, if when the kids are away, one day we manage to combine, why don't we go for a brisk walk in the park in the evening, and then while we are at it, we kind of talk about the 5-year plan. It's probably even easier.
Yes.
So combine
eliminate brisk.
A walk, yeah.
Just why don't we go for a nice walk? Okay. The secret here is to make your language as stress-free and as inviting to come and play with me as possible. You're inviting him to come and play with you.
Yes.
Okay.
And
then keywords
that I do come in. I know because it's happened in the past that we go for a walk, and there I come in attacking, not on purpose, but with the we have to do, and often it does happen that we do end up fighting because I come in with
of course.
loading.
So come in this time with here's what I thought. I was thinking about how nice it would be to do this. What do you think? You're not giving instructions.
Yeah.
You have to do. You are actually having a discussion and inviting him in. Big difference between giving instructions and inviting him to share his thoughts with you. And the easiest way to invite him to share his thoughts with you is for you to share your thoughts that excite you with him first, and then say, what do you think?
Yeah. So then, so this is what has been happening. And so whereas the last session, we kind of, if I recall correctly, we kind of left on the side a bit a talk that we should do on exploration of what I would like to do, because I have a lot of blockage on that.
Yeah.
And it's something I really am keen to talk with you about.
Great.
There's been a couple of things that happened on the topic of death I think I should mention.
Okay.
Because you know that we kind of mentioned death in passing here and there in our sessions, but we never kind of went too much in detail. And I have a very big fear of death in general. And well, the other two things that I don't know if they are connected, but the other day, can't remember how it happened, but I went to bed and I think I was feeling, no, I think I was okay. Something must have happened. Like back then I had it clear in my mind. Now it kind of went. But at one point, my grandmother's idea or memory, whatever, came. And then my heart started beating like at 100 miles an hour. I was like, oh my gosh. So then I got really in between scared, and yeah, I was really scared. And then I managed to calm down by breathing, and eventually I fell asleep.
Okay, I want to interrupt you there because I'm not clear about what you mean when you said, I had my grandmother's thought. Did you think about her? Did she come to you in the dream? No,
I was awake. I had just gone to bed. And I think I thought about her. Now I just can't remember anymore what happened. Just must have been thinking about things.
Yeah.
And her, like, thoughts about her came, or, you know, her image, her image came to my head. Right. And then my heart started beating like crazy, to which, you know, and then I started thinking about death or, all of those things. And then yesterday evening, I put the kids to bed, and one of the two, after a while, I thought they were asleep, came back, and he was in tears. And you know, it took me time to calm him down and get to like make him speak. And he said he had been worried for the past 2 days, scared that someone would kill me. To which then, you know, I also, you know, it was a bit tough for me because, of course, I had heard the kids at one point in time, they start being scared of death and these things, losing their parents. But, you know, it was a bit unexpected. I could not there and then link it to anything that they may have heard or seen. And it kind of hit me, the fact that he was worried about me being killed rather than me dying. But, you know, young as he is, maybe in his head it's the same, I thought. And then I had mixed feelings, because on the one hand, I had to try and reassure him as best I could, thinking, you know, what am I going to tell him to calm him down, and not telling him lies, like, you know, I'm never going to die kind of craziness. So, you know, I tried to tell him that, you know, Matthias, I have been alive for 41 years and no one has killed me so far. So chances are that no one is going to kill me. You know, we don't live in a dangerous place. We, you know, we're cared for. whatever. And, you know, eventually he calmed down. But then, of course, then made me think about death, because, like I said, it's something that scares me. And at the same time, thoughts of, you know, how do you reassure a kid who, let's say, you're going to tell them, I'm not going to be killed, but that you don't know. You know, I could have a car accident in front of here and I'm going to die. So, of course, the worry of giving as true information as you can, because there, you know, my crazy thoughts came in thinking, okay, you know, something might happen to me and the kid is going to remain with the thought, Mama promised me that she was not going to be killed. And
it's not about giving true information.
Okay.
It's actually seeing this not literally, but as the child's developmental stage where it's working through death. Okay, so something that he's read, seen, heard people talk about, he's working through, and it's about being killed.
Mm-hmm.
So what can he do with that? Well, to process it fully, every child will process it through parents at some point or other, that they will die. Okay, so the parent's job is really to help the child understand that we all die and it's all a part of life and it's all okay. Because, for example, if it were me, what I did with my godchildren would say, well, you can still talk to me after I'm gone. You know, because we're all energy, which means that, you know, we can communicate with each other as much as we want. You don't need a physical a body. You don't need me in a physical body to do that. So a great way to help children work through the idea of death is through fairy stories or their favorite stories. And they will have some that they want to hear again and again and again and again, because what will happen is that they will use the story to process and come to some form of understanding about this fact that we aren't all going to live forever. And they have to do it. Okay, so I recognize that it must have been difficult for you to reassure the twin, especially as I imagine that you needed reassuring at that stage too.
Yeah, especially because straight after when he went to bed, I kind of Googled a bit, you know, tips on, you know, when your kids are scared of death or the like. And of course, one of the tips is you need to come to terms with the thought as much as possible before you can reassure your kids.
Yeah.
And I know that I am, you know, for as much as already to the kids, we've always said that everyone dies, you know, this we say continuously, which I'm really happy about, because in my family, we never used to talk about death or dying.
No.
And perhaps when my grandmother died, for me, it was such a shock that maybe I haven't recovered from it, or that's what I think, at least. Because I do live in fear of people dying, especially my parents.
Well, you know, one of the most helpful ways to reassure ourselves, you know, we understand the words, death is a part of life, but we've lost all of the traditions that we had around that, which helped us really understand in every cell of our body what that means. And in losing all of those traditions, we separate ourselves from this essential part of life, which is death. Just as birth, there can be no life without birth, there can be no life without death. So a helpful thing for children is to give them a pet, and the pet will die, and there are ceremonies. You know, you go into the garden, you dig a hole, you find a nice cloth to wrap them in, you make a little headstone, you say goodbye to them. There are all sorts of things that you can do. You live in an apartment, don't you? So you may not be able to dig up the earth and put it.
We have a garden, so we're lucky with that. We could do it.
But what you can do, other things you can do, is to say, well, I would like you to celebrate me when I die. What would you like to celebrate, and how would you like to celebrate it? And you don't, what you do is you present death as a celebration of a life.
Okay. Okay.
And it has to be very simple. So, you know, if they like Harry Potter, for example, you can remind them of the Phoenix in Harry Potter. If they have favorite stories, then you can look at how endings take place in those stories, because death is simply an ending of a phase. So when children are very, very young, when we're still babies, we think that if we can't see you, you aren't there, you don't exist. We cannot understand that you're around the corner or you're in another room. You either exist or you don't. You're here or you're not, okay? So this is what your son's been going through, is the next development stage on, which is to say, well, that's actually not true. It's only true when you die. So it's another development stage. Do you understand? So the brain is being able to very gradually work with concepts that it couldn't before, and it's going to take a while to understand that concept and be comfortable with it and work through all of the implications of the concept. And one nice way for a child to work through the implications is to work through the end of life ceremonies and to see that there's joy in those ceremonies. The Irish are brilliant. They have what they call a wake. They don't have a funeral, they have a wake, which is a huge party where everyone gets I've never been in one. I've never been in one in Ireland. I've had Irish friends in London and we've had a bit of a wake. But they do get amazingly drunk. But it's all about laughing at the memories that we had with that person, remembering the great things they did, remembering how they helped us. It's all about celebrating their life.
Yeah, and then we do something similar. I mean, they don't do such a big party, but from what I've seen, they also gather together and yeah.
Okay, because in UK funerals they do, but they don't. It's very half-hearted. The Irish are brilliant at it.
In Italy, they're sad.
Yeah, well, that's more of what happens in the UK, but the Irish aren't sad at all. They sing, they dance, they laugh, they really, really celebrate it. And I think it's because they're more in touch with their ancient traditions, which sees a death as an indispensable part of life. So how did you leave your son? Is he my experience says that he will continue to ask you questions, maybe even for a couple of years.
Yeah, like I felt in the end, I felt happy because I managed to calm him down.
Okay.
I managed to fall asleep, and already I was happy that I managed to have him talk, because at the beginning he was crying and he was saying, no, I don't want to tell you what it is, because he was saying, no, there's no, because I was worried that I had done something and that's why he was mad at me. No, yes, Mom, you have done something, but you haven't, he said. And after he said, but if you tell me, maybe we can find a solution together. And he said, no, Mom, there is no solution to this. No. So I was feeling really, really bad. You know, those things that I thought, you know, I wish I had thought about this earlier and discussed with Torsten how to approach, because those are the kind of things that happen. And then just gather whatever information and abilities you have, and you just give the best of yourself, right? And I was happy that he managed to fall asleep. And then I was a bit worried this morning when he woke up, and he woke up in a very good mood. So
good.
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
Good. Well, one of my second eldest goddaughter kept going through this until she was about 10.
Wow.
She had tremendous difficulties with it. But most children, you know, they need to go through it for maybe a year, maybe 2, but the intensity of what they go through just gets less and less and less as they understand that life and death are all one, and it's just part of the circle of life.
Yeah.
Okay, so the important thing, as you've hit on, really is to reassure yourself.
Yeah, so how do I work on myself? Because I know I have a major problem with death myself.
Yeah, you do. Well, perhaps you can have a little ceremony for your grandma. The ceremony for you will be celebrating her life. Grandma, I know it was really painful when I lost you, but I am so grateful you were in my life because I loved you for this, you taught me this,
okay,
you made me laugh this time, and you focus on all the things she gave you that you wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We need to balance our sense of loss with our sense of what we've achieved, what we've gained because of having that person in our life. It's the way we come to terms with the end of every relationship, whether it's a lover or a parent, whether it's through death or choice. Okay. We eventually come to the stage where we stop being the victim of the pain and we start seeing how much that person and that relationship has given us. And this is something that would reassure you, and then you can use it with the boys.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. The boys may have had toys in their lives that they've used until the toys broke. Well, a very simple way to introduce the subject of death is they broke, so you couldn't use them anymore, and so we died. You know, we gave them a new home, we recycled them, or so that they see this cycle of life.
Yeah.
Okay, for me the key is introducing the child to the cycle of life, that there can be no life without death, and death is just a phase. It's not the end, particularly if you're a Buddhist. I'm not a practicing Buddhist, but it's the closest that I can get to a way of life that really makes sense to me. And that is that, you know, we reincarnate. We come back again, and we come back again with all of the wisdom we learned in the previous lives.
Yeah.
And we can come back again and have a relationship with the people that we loved in those previous lives. So it's, for a Buddhist, it's never over. And for the wisdom traditions, the Maoris, the Aborigines, the Indians, it's never over either. It is this constantly self-enriching cycle.
Yeah. I think my main worry is that you never know. You know, you don't know until you die.
That might be true for you. I do know. And it's not that I have the facts, it's just I just know.
Okay.
Because otherwise, for me, this is a universe that never wastes anything. And it would be a total waste of what we learn in a life if it died with us. So that's how I view it.
I tend to think as well in my own, in my own world that, the spirit remains.
Yeah.
So I keep continuing asking myself questions and probably the fact that I don't know, I'm not sure I'm scared of the unknown.
Yeah, of course. I'll tell you what really, really helped me years ago, decades ago, was when I don't know if my oldest godchildren were born or not, but I was talking to their mum, who has been a great friend of mine for about 35 years now. And I was feeling a bit sorry for myself. And we were talking about, when we die, and I said, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that I will be missed when I die, because I don't think I make a contribution. And she said, oh, the children were born. She said, "You are joking, aren't you? Look at what you've taught the 3 godchildren." So they were Rosie, Florence and Charles. And I thought, oh, for goodness sake, yes, that's another recycling where what we teach, the passions, my passion for cooking and for reading, I shared with all 3 of my godchildren. So it became their passion too.
Okay.
So that's also, you know, recycling and having who we are and what we are go on in the generations that come behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it, and I'd never looked at it like that. I'd looked at it like a Zen Buddhist, but I hadn't looked at it in that very practical way. And Sarah was quite right.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, everything, all the passions that we share, all the skills and talents that we have that we share with someone else means that they survive beyond our small life.
Yeah.
All the ways we empower others means that they go on to empower themselves and then to empower others. So what we have left behind us never, ever is lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So these are things that you can talk to the boys about, that they will understand.
Yeah.
You know, what's one thing you're really glad I taught you? Well, you taught me how to tie my shoes. Well, that's something you will teach your child. Mm-hmm. And every time you teach your child, it will because I taught you. So there will be a little part of me in everything you do, in the food that you eat, in the way that you think. I will always be with you.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so they're very simple ways that the child is already able to understand. And then other ways you play with, you experiment with, you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And what you can do as a mum, you can find stories that they might like that actually help them work through death.
Yeah.
Because there are now authors write books for specific developmental phases for children.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I may even have one that I put aside because they had a kid who died in school 2 years ago. But then I had bought the book and didn't pull it out because they didn't seem to know that the kid had died.
Yeah.
They weren't sure what was said in school, and they were very small.
Well, the fact
so
that
think I may have, I need to look.
The fact that one of them has already spoken to you about death means that they're ready to start looking at it. So actually, you might even see how it feels and how it works, but you might even use the death of their classmate to ask them now, what do you miss about him and what did you like about him or her? Maybe not miss, because you don't want them to focus on the pain, but what did you like about them? What did they do that made you laugh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, again, just reinforce the really simple things like, no matter whether he's here or not, you'll never forget that about him. So he lives, a little bit of him or her lives in your heart.
Yeah, indeed.
And if you like something about him, you can copy it for yourself. You know, if this classmate did something that you really liked, well then every time you think of him and what he did, every time you copy that because you liked it, you'll be reliving a part of him. Okay.
Yeah.
So take the scariness out of death. So don't go into the fact that you were killed. I would look at it in general terms first, but do your own work first. And part of that means, I would think, writing to your grandma. Just write her a little letter where you put down all the things you loved about her, all the things she gave you. And then if you want, you can burn it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can keep it or you can burn it. Usually we burn it. It's It's a way, it's a symbolic way of giving it up to heaven.
Yeah. And this I do, even if I remember in reality very little, right? Because I was young when she died.
Yeah. Just do what you remember, what you felt about her, what you loved about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that.
And it's not that you ignore the pain. You say, I'm writing this to you because I had so much pain when you died. And it's time to heal that pain within me. So I want to tell you how you contributed to my life and how you still contribute to my life.
Yeah, all of that.
Okay, it's difficult to know what to do in this case if the adults around us don't teach us how to do it.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
Sounds
Does
good.
that help? Any more questions come up for you there?
More if this can also help towards, because, you know, still dealing with death, I'm kind of always worried when my mom and dad will die.
Do you know why? Can you see a link between the reaction you had to your grandma's death and your fear around your parents' death?
Probably. But I say nowadays when I'm adult, I know they will die. But like at times I even have images, you know, when they will die, and that is just terrible for me. Like I feared that moment so much.
You're not fearing the moment they die. You're reliving the fear that grew within you because no one helped you feel comfortable and accept the death of your grandma.
Okay.
Okay. It has nothing to do with what you might actually feel when your parents die. It is simply your brain perversely trying to prepare you for something there is no way it can prepare you for. Certainly not in that way. The only way to prepare for a death is to live the moments that you have with the person to the full. And that's what you're doing. Your parents are very much a part of your life. You've got a very different relationship with them now than you had when you were a child because they're not working anymore. They're more available. So they're more relaxed. They're less stressed. They've changed. You've grown up. So your relationship now is very different. So that's all that's happening there. Okay, the fear is never real. Fear is something you imagine, and it's based on, not always, but often on an experience that was very painful for you, and you've never learnt an alternative to that experience.
Okay, yeah.
So, for example, people who have parents or children who have long illnesses tend to see the moment of death as a blessed release. There is pain at the loss, but it's also a release because they don't have to suffer anymore.
Yeah, indeed.
So their experience, and that's certainly mine with both of my parents, that experience is very, very different. So remember that your fear isn't based on reality. It is based on an old experience that no one helped you deal with and accept. So you've set it up in your mind as something to be avoided at all costs. And the thing about death is it comes to get us all sooner or later.
Yeah.
Okay. So watch the boys, but do your work first. That's your priority. Because the more relaxed you are, the more help you'll be able to be for them.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Very useful.
Anything else you want to raise?
No, I think about death. Well, since we're talking about death, one thought that came to mind was whether the fact that I run so much, like I'm constantly running, doing things, have to do things, have to get things done, is because I'm running from death, or is just a thought that I've had. So it's like far from me having any
good question. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I think yes. But when I, try to stop thinking about it, I'm thinking, because the brain kind of catches you and wants to confuse you. I think this is what your brain wants you to believe, but it's not true.
Good. Well, that's a healthy.
So I get even more confused because I'm like, okay, but what is it then? Why?
I think it's not so much it is linked with death, but it's all part of a bigger issue, which is your chronic anxiety.
But the chronic anxiety comes from, let's say, my nature, the person I am, the way I react to things, or, because at the end of the day, there are people that are more relaxed and there are people that are more stressed. And fair enough that more people, like certain people, react to their life experiences, but we're also born with some kind of, personality imprint. I don't know what it's called.
Okay, all right, let's look at this, because this is a great question. You talked about, is it who I am? Well, it's who you are, but it's not who you really are. It's learned behavior. Okay. When we're babies, we have our own personality, but it gets shaped and it gets manipulated by the adults around us when we're very young.
Yeah.
And their behavior teaches us what we need to do to be acceptable to them. And in that process of modifying our behavior to be acceptable to them, we lose sight of who we really are. So your anxiety is not who you are, it's who you learned to be. And just as you learned it, you can unlearn it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think we discussed this in the past, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
The personality we show to the world as adults is usually the expression of what we learned about how we are acceptable or unacceptable to others as children. It's the expression of everything we learned about who we need to be to get love and acceptance and safety as children. So that's why archetypal psychology talks about the hero's quest of coming home to ourselves, our true personality, not this shaped personality that has been shaped by other people's unresolved emotional wounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other forms of psychology talk about masks. It's all the same. We mean all the same thing. Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yes, very much. Thanks.
Good. All right.
Cool.
I wanted to go back to what we did in our last session. My suggestion to you that you be the leader for Torsten in this journey towards the 5-year plan and reducing the stress that you both have in your life. And the way to do that is for is to be very proactive in the time leading up to the boys staying with their grandparents. So from now until the time the boys come home from their grandparents, what I would like you to focus on more than anything else is giving yourself regular times each day to think a little bit about what your 5-year plan might look like. This is not work, this is play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the more regularly you do it, so if you can manage it at least 3 or 4 times a week, the more you will find you start having ideas about what you want, because you're telling your brain, this is a habit, so keep bringing me those thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you have a thought that you can't write down because you're on a bus or you're in the car, record it on your mobile phone. Don't lose that thought. Then when you have time, put it into the document, the mind map, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the success of this is going to be based on several things. One, you're being ahead of Torsten in this, and knowing at least some things you would really like to be doing as a family over the next 5 years. And 2, the language. You are not giving him instructions, you are inviting him to play.
Yeah.
Because you're not so much these days. I've seen you much more stressed. You were much more stressed this time last year, for example.
Yes.
But Torsten is, has reached breaking point, possibly. So it all has to come as an invitation to play.
Yeah. No, for sure, you're right. I notice myself as well, for as much as always running, whatever, I'm much calmer.
You are. You're having a session every 2 weeks. Last year we couldn't do that. It was a real struggle.
Oh.
And every time you came with a crisis.
Mm-mm.
Now you're thinking you're seeing the bigger picture, and you're asking questions, not just to deal with what's coming up now, but how to get you to where you want to be. And that's a very, very healthy sign. It's a great sign.
Mm-hmm.
So do it again with this 5-year plan. Take your time when you can to think about little things. Don't have to be big things, but little things. Yes. What I'd like to be doing in 5 years' time. Go back to your mind map that you did at the beginning of the year and see what's on that. That's your starting point.
Yeah.
And by play, do you ever daydream?
No.
Okay, daydreaming is the expression that we use when we, it's like a really lovely dream about where our life will be, and we imagine ourselves doing the things that we want to do, having the success we want to do, having the love that we want to do. And it's called a daydream because we're having a lovely dream, if you like. I put it in air quotes, while we're actually wide awake, but we're very relaxed, and so we're very suggestive. Our brain is in the brainwave state, which is so relaxed that we let in our creativity and our intuition. So it's the closest state to being asleep and dreaming.
Yeah.
So we're in that middle land, that middle area.
The issue is, I think I've always blocked my dreams, like never really done what I liked, and I've so much learned to not enjoy what I do because I'm never in a state of calm. I'm always thinking of what next. That is why I think my 5-year plan is difficult, because because for a start, it gets blocked. You know, when the minute I start thinking, what would I like? Because I've never really stopped thinking about what would I like. You know, the most I think of what would I like is what I should, you know, things I would say if my feet are destroyed and I need a pedicure. That's the most of my what would I like, which
but
is
it's not
exactly, because it's in between.
Think back to the mind map you did. You did think about what you'd like.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
To say never is not true, is it?
That's true. So
yes, you have difficulty, but no, it's not that you never do it. You can do it.
Yes.
So the easiest way is to set the timer. Set 10 minutes for yourself, and that's a 10-minute no interruption time.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking at your mind map. I need to turn it round a bit.
I have it.
Distinguish real messages from inner saboteurs.
Inner saboteurs, yes.
Job security, no risk take, my family, me, well-being. You see, you've got do something I like and enjoy doing. Education, psychology, nutrition, sports. Learn to understand my inner critic and the bullies. Well, you know, that can be a bit serious, but well-being, what comes with well-being? When you drill down into well-being, what does well-being mean to you?
To me, it means feeling relaxed.
Okay, feeling relaxed. What else does it mean?
Being like healthy and happy.
Okay, so let's just take two of those, just to make it easy for you. So well-being, you can split into two columns, being relaxed and being happy. Then you can write down a list of things that make you feel relaxed and another list of things that make you feel happy.
Okay.
And you're beginning to get a clearer idea about what you're going to need to do and what you need in that life that's going to give you that sense of well-being 5 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
I usually do it in three. I would split well-being down into relaxed, healthy, and something else. I can't think at the moment. But start with two if you can't get a third one. And make a short list, 5 or 6 things. You don't need to do anymore. And if you can't come up with 6 things, don't worry. Start with 2. But start making a list of what does well-being mean to me.
Yeah.
It might be that you've gone for a run and you've got a real runner's high and you think that's well-being. Fine. It may be that you cook and eat great food and that leaves you feeling really good. It could be well-being that comes from having a satisfying relationship with Torsten.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when we first do this, it seems overwhelming to come from, for example, your mind map, which has me in the middle, which made me so happy when I saw that, to actually how you're going to achieve that me. But when you take, as you've got all of these satellite things around your me, you take one thing in 10 minutes for 10 minutes and you just look at it and you say, let's separate well-being into 2 different components. And now let's make a list of what makes me feel happy. Well, what makes me feel happy is being able to play with the kids. What makes me feel happy is having alone time with Torsten, not talking about what we need to do, but what we want to do, or just enjoying the moment and it being in each other's company without having to do something, just being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start doing that, then you start seeing the whole thing come together, because you've got more than a vision, which is very vague. You're starting to build that film that we spoke about in our last session, which is rich in sights, sounds, smells, emotions.
Yeah.
Because if in your well-being it includes, you know, just spending time with Torsten, well, then you can think up, what would a really great day with Torsten feel like, look like, be like for you? Because you know it's one of your key points to well-being. It's one of your indispensable things, non-negotiable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So take one of the things. I would start with well-being, because you've got a lot of no risk taker, job security, no quit job, which are all negative. You want to learn to understand inner critic. That's hard work. Let's look at something like sports or nutrition, or further education, or well-being. Start there. It's the easiest way to go to get into this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I'll try to look at that.
And I would set an alarm for yourself for just 10 minutes a day, or 10 minutes every 2 or 3 days, and then choose one day to put everything down in a document, so that you don't lose it and it's all, you know, themed, and you can see where you're going. For me, as you know, I tend to use Excel, because I just create the columns and away I go. I put my lists in.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll try to do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to take any more than 10 minutes. Set your alarm, because that will help your brain to stop saying, well, you've got to get up, you've got to do things. No, I can take this 10 minutes. The world is not going to end while I take this 10 minutes. But I do not want to die not having achieved the goals I want for my life.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. This isn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you thinking about it now?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think that, yeah, I definitely have to sit down and brainstorm with myself.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
And if it's easiest for you to start with a sort of mini movie that you run in your head of where you want to, the sort of scene that you want to be living with Torsten and the boys in 5 years' time, start there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You don't have to use your mind map, because since you did it, you might well have changed some ideas. So don't let it hold you back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, maybe look at this, but then take it aside and start something new, so that...
I mean, there are certain things that you always talk about, and you always talk about stress. You know, that's been a key aspect of our work, managing stress and balancing your well-being with the well-being of your family.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Even more, there's been the work-life balance, which is a big area of discussion for you both.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the better you feel about yourself, the more work-life balance you will have. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it might be that you want to come back to the inner bullies, because you think, well, they're helping me feel better about myself. So actually, I do want to put something about them. But what do I want? I don't know. I'll just put it down, and I will work on it later.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it may be something like, I want to have finished working with Susanna, because that will mean that I'm able to do this on my own and I don't need her anymore. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
So don't judge the things that you're putting down. Just put them down.
Yes.
If you like, we can have another look at them in our next session.
Yes, indeed.
Now, you did say that you're going to Norway at some point.
Yeah, we're traveling on
going
6th of August. So
for 2 weeks.
We're going for 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you come back?
End of August.
Okay.
But depending on the weeks, I think I might manage a session before we travel. Yes. Need to look at the work calendar, but I think.
And you're going to stay with family?
We are going to. We're going to stay at Torsten's mom's house. We had initially planned to take a 1 week, 10 days in between to go to the Lofoten Islands, but it's turning out to be very expensive because already when we travel to Norway, everything, between the flights for 4 and the car rental, it's already enough. And Torsten looked at the flights for Lofoten and potential rental of a house and to the Maldives. So it's a shame because every time we try to travel to Norway, it feels like it's so expensive, but we are kind of reconsidering, and perhaps we just take, since we'll have to rent the car anyhow, we may travel to Bergen, visit some friends. Yeah. At least, the car rental is already there, spend a few days with some friends and perhaps take 2-3 days somewhere else on our own. But, booking an Airbnb for 3 days is different than flying to Lofoten for 10 days. So we're probably going to do that. Yeah. So the rest is family, and we hope to manage to see some friends before the school starts there.
Good. Okay. All right. So let's just look. You said you'll see if you can fit another session in. Because basically, the next session would be on the 2nd of August. Wow.
Yeah. So I have to see if should be okay.
All right. Okay. We'll try for it. If you can't, I'll understand. But I don't like you going for a whole month without a session because things tend to happen. Yeah. And the rot tends to set in. But anyway, see how it goes. Yes. All right. We've got a few more minutes left because I needed to give you an extra 10 minutes this week because we said everything we needed to say in our last session 10 minutes early.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That's good.
Yeah. I made a note of it, so I knew I wouldn't. So have any questions come up for you from what we've been talking about today? Or any big takeaways?
Many. Well, all the things that I can do to learn to accept the idea of death. Mm-hmm. So that both with my grandma and those things, I've taken note of everything. It's quite useful.
Good.
All of those, and then this mostly I will try to let sink in this thought of the shaped personality versus true personality.
Yeah.
Because I think somehow it might help me because, when I stop to think of, when I start thinking about what would I like to do, not long ago I heard, I think it was a podcast, and they were discussing, the difficulty people have deciding what they would really like to do, what their real passion is, because, we're not used to that because the life we lead, or because, we need money and we end up doing jobs that,
pay the bills.
Exactly. So it was it kind of stuck to my mind, the question of what would you do if money was not an issue?
Yeah.
And I think that somehow could help me, because it's true that when I start thinking, what would I like to do? Then all the blockages come in, and most of it is like, oh, but the house and the money, and it's true that the money is unfortunately the main driver of what we do. So yeah. So, but that's a good question that I can try and keep in mind, because of course, often since we started our work, I try to think, what would I like to do, and this and that. And it's true that I have ideas, but it's also true that I don't, I have many ideas, and then I also have many blockages.
Yeah. All right. You focus a lot on the blockages, so let's help you. The question that you asked is very good. It's a very common one, and it's very good. There's another one. What would I do if I couldn't fail?
Okay, yeah.
Because money, if we ask the question around money, we can then, our brains can take it as a signal to focus on money.
Okay.
Depending on how we work. So there's the other one that has nothing to do with money, and it's all about if I couldn't fail. So it sets us up to think success.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if there's something we really want to do, then we'll find the money to do it. That's how it works. It's just the law of human nature. If there's something we really want to do, we will find the money to do it. Somehow, some way, no matter how long it takes us, we'll find it. Okay. Yeah. You and Torsten are already thinking about that. In our last session, you spoke about, what early retirement and what we could do, and Torsten could do consultancy. And, if we had to go to the UK, then I wouldn't want to work. I would want to just enjoy the boys and the life. And so you're already thinking about that. That other question is a great question. It's one actually I prefer. See how you feel about it. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Okay, because you don't fall into the money trap then.
Yeah, true.
Okay, because if you fall into the money trap at that stage, you never get out of it.
Yeah.
Because you're automatically censoring, oh no, I don't have the money. But we're not talking about now. You don't need the money now. You will need it in 3 years' time. So you've got 3 years' time to plan to create that money.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and go back to your strengths. You remember when we started working together? Go back to your strengths, because the way you find the thing that really makes you passionate and what you really want to do is to look at what you simply cannot live without. So that's another question for you. What can I not live without? My boys, good. Torsten, great. A relationship with my life partner where we can both grow, great. Satisfying work that leaves me at the end of each day, no matter how tough it is, feeling that I've done some good, great. To know what you want to do, you have to find your passion, and your passion lies in your strengths. So use your strengths as a starting point.
Yes.
Okay. So come up with 4 or 5 things that to have a happy life or this well-being, you absolutely have to have. You cannot do without.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And there, I think that's enough for today.
Thank you, Susanna.
All right. You're looking very thoughtful.
I have a lot in my head, of course. I would have to continue brainstorming with myself.
Good.
Yes.
All right. Okay, my love.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.